Closer to Nowhere by Ellen Hopkins, a First Chapter Friday novel and verse read aloud video with the Word Nerd. Just a quick reminder before we dive in that I have many more novels and verse available for you on my channel. Today, as you listen, watch for the story quote that will appear on screen. Write it down word by word and then follow the instructions given to you by your teacher. Hi, my name's Amanda Ziba. Welcome to my channel, Learning with the Word Nerd, and another First Chapter Friday video. Even though the weather here in Wisconsin still feels like winter, the calendar says it is in fact April, which is National Poetry Month, so I'm going to be reading you another novel and verse. This week, I'm going to be reading you Closer to Nowhere by Ellen Hopkins. Now, you might recognize that name. Ellen Hopkins writes a lot of novels and verse, but mostly they're for older readers and fall distinctly in the YA category. But this is one of her first in the middle grade category. And I loved this book for 3 reasons. Number 1, it's a story about cousins, and I adore my cousins. They're some of my best friends, so I loved reading a story that featured 2 cousins. Number 2, one of those cousins, Hannah, is a gymnast, and gymnastics is my favorite sport, and so I loved being able to read about a character who did the things that I did when I was a kid. And number 3, I love that both of the characters, Hannah and Cal, got to grow in the story. A lot of times the story will focus on one character and their growth, but this story goes back and forth between perspectives, and each person really does go through their own journey throughout the story, and I thought that was really cool. As you read the story and it goes back and forth between Cal's perspective and Hannah's perspective, each of their chapters kind of take on a different format. So at the beginning of each of Hannah's chapters, it'll say definition of, and it will give a word, and then it will give the definition of that word, and then it will connect to her life and like how that word connects to that particular scene. Cal's chapters start with fact or fiction, and then it will say a statement, and then Cal will tell you whether that is in fact a fact, or if it is fiction. And again, it always relates to the scene ahead. And I think that's just a really cool way for the author to distinguish between a Cal chapter and a Hannah chapter. I'm going to read the back so you know what this book is about. Hannah and Kelvin might be family, but sometimes Hannah wishes they weren't. Her cousin Cal is a teller of half-truths and tall tales who pranks Hannah constantly, and he seems to be the reason her parents have been fighting more and more lately. Hannah's mom says to be patient with Cal, that after his mom died and his dad went to jail, Cal needs them. But Cal moving in has turned Hannah's world upside down. And Cal, he just wants to fit in and finally feel safe. But it's tricky. He can't always control his reactions. He has frequent meltdowns, and telling the truth about his past feels risky. He also misses his mother desperately, and he worries about the looming threat of his father taking him away from the first real home he's ever had. As tensions build both at home and school, the 2 cousins will have to find a way to give each other a second chance and hear each other out if they want to heal their family's scars and each other. This was a beautiful book, and I think that you're really going to like it. Again, it is a novel in verse. You can see the way the words appear on the page might not be how you're used to seeing them, but I love novels in verse because the authors only get so many words, so they make sure they pick the very best ones. This book isn't really divided into chapters. It's more just entries from Cal and Hannah, so I'm going to read a few of the first ones and hopefully leave off at a spot that will make you want to read more. Here we go, Closer to Nowhere by Ellen Hopkins. Fact or fiction? This is a Cal chapter. You can know where you are and still be lost. Answer? Take it from me. I'm Cal and I've been lost since Mom died 3 years ago. Oh, I could show you exactly where this town is on a map, lead you through the maze of its streets, so I've only lived here 14 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days. But I'm safe for now. But I don't know how long that will last. I'm afraid if I start to believe I belong here, everything will change again. It's like off in the distance, I can see something that could be home, but every time I start in that direction, it's farther away. And no matter how hard I try to reach out, I only get closer to nowhere. Definition of Hannah Lincoln. Wait a second. You want me to define me? Let me think. Okay, here it goes. I'm Hannah Lincoln. Dad says we're not related to the dead president, and I believe him. I don't look anything like Honest Abe. He was tall and skinny, and I'm short and built muscly like a gymnast, because I am one. He had dark hair, mine's red with highlights, the color of a new penny. He had a beard. No, not even a hint of a hair on my chin. But I am like President Lincoln in one good way. One time my dad told me I was honest as the day is long. When I didn't know what that meant, he said, trustworthy, 24/7. I ask because I need to understand what stuff means and how things work. If I don't get what someone says, I'll make them explain. If I don't know the definition of a word, I'll look it up. If I don't get the hang of a gymnastics move, I'll practice until I nail it. That's important because I've got a giant dream, which doesn't make me a dreamer. I'm a doer, focused, dedicated, not afraid of hard work. My coach would tell you I'm all of those things and that they're exactly what it will take to qualify for the Olympics one day. Well, those plus a ton of help from my family. I used to count on that. My parents were my support system, totally solid. We were a great team. But like 3 years ago, just before I turned 9, Mom's sister got leukemia and died. And everything started to fall apart. Definition of status quo, the way things were. 3 years ago, this is the way things were. We lived, and still do, in a nice house in a sweet neighborhood in a small San Diego suburb. Dad was, still is, a computer whiz, building systems all around Southern California. He had dinner with us pretty much every night. Mom was, still is, the person who made me love to dance. She worked at a studio teaching jazz and ballet to help pay for my own lessons. I went, and still do, to a grade school just around the corner from home. I've taken dance for 5 years and been in gymnastics for 4. My parents came to every recital, cheered for me at every meet. They sat close. They held hands. I was okay being an only child. Today, this is our status quo. Mom quit her job to take care of Aunt Karen when she got sick and needed a bone marrow transplant. She never went back to work. I wish she would. I think she was happier. I know Dad was. He has to work twice as hard now. He travels around the country showing other people how to build computer systems. We eat way too many dinners without him. But when he's home, he and Mom argue a lot, mostly about money and bills. I hate when they yell. I'm in Mrs. Peabody's 6th grade class at the same school I've gone to since kindergarten. I still do dance and gymnastics. Mom drives me to every recital and meet. Dad misses some. When he's there, they sit with a space between them. Oh, and now I'm sharing everything, home, parents, even my teacher, with my cousin. I am so not okay with that. Definition of resent. Feel bothered by. Cal moved in a little more than a year ago. He wasn't exactly a stranger. Aunt Karen was his mom, and she and my mom were more than sisters. They were identical twins. 2 halves of a whole, Mom called them. They were close, but they didn't live near each other. Aunt Karen moved to Arizona before Cal was born. She visited once in a while and came to a couple of family reunions. Talk about trouble. I guess when Aunt Karen met Cal's dad and dropped out of college, it made Grandma mad. They hardly talk at all anymore, Mom told me once. And when they do, they end up shouting. So why does Aunt Karen go to the reunions, I asked. Grandma's always there. Karen still wants to be a part of the family, and she wants Cal to know his relatives. I think Grandma should forgive her, I said. I think so too, but my mother has a hard time with forgiveness. She thinks it's a sign of weakness. Grandma still hadn't forgiven her when Aunt Karen died. I'll never forget that day. Mom cried and cried. When she finally stopped, her face was so puffed up I could barely see her eyes. I've lost a piece of myself, she said. Maybe Cal living with us was like getting that piece back. Maybe that's why Mom lets him get away with everything from pranks to meltdowns to lies. I'm sorry, but I resent that. Try to find a little sympathy, Mom urges. After Aunt Karen passed, things got pretty rough for Cal. His dad took him after the funeral, but the details of the next 2 years are a mystery, and no one's giving out clues. You'll have to wait for Cal to tell you, Mom says. It's not up to me. Whatever happened, I feel sorry for Cal. If my mom died, I'd be lost too. Cal must feel that way. So yeah, I want to forgive his quirks. Definition of quirk. Weird habit. Still, Cal isn't easy to live with. I like order, routine. He's the king of chaos. Our spare room is Cal's lair now. Mom let it paint it charcoal and doesn't even yell about the mess. Greasy wrappers here, dirty clothes there. Imagine what's crawling around in his closet. Gross. I have to share a bathroom with him, which might not be so bad, except he forgets to drop the toilet seat. I've splashed down in the dark more than once. Gross squared. Cal drinks straight from the milk carton and brushes his teeth without toothpaste. Sometimes he doesn't even brush them at all. Gross cubed. Those are the little things. But Cal has bigger problems. Like right now, at school, we're outside for recess. It never really gets cold here, but it's early November. The sky is gray and the air is kind of sharp. Almost everyone is playing ball. Softball, kickball, tetherball, basketball. But Cal is sitting against a wall of the 6th grade building, facing a book. He reads like 3 a week. Our teacher, Mrs. Peabody, keeps telling him to slow down. Comprehension means more than word count, she says. But no, he has to read more than anyone else and ask for books that are long and advanced. Sometimes it seems like he's showing off. The problem with that is it can draw attention of bullies, especially those who think it's hilarious to make someone freak out. There go two now, and they're headed in Cal's direction. This could be bad. Definition of intervene: get involved. And if you want to see if Hannah does intervene and get involved with Cal and what's going on with him and their life together and how everything works out, you're going to want to pick up a copy of this book from your school library, local indie bookstore, or if you can't find it there, you can always grab it in the link in the description box. Thank you so much for coming back to read with me each week. Make sure you check out all of the other novels in verse that I have on this playlist. You can celebrate National Poetry Month as well. And I hope we'll see you again here next time. Happy reading! To continue reading Closer to Nowhere by Ellen Hopkins, pick up a copy from your school library, local indie bookstore, or via the link in the description box. This week's mystery quote says, "I'm glad to have another chance." Don't forget to check out the rest of the novels in verse I have available for you on my Read Aloud playlist, and all of the other First Chapter Friday videos too. Thanks for watching, come back again, and remember to subscribe so you get even more great content from the Word Nerd. See you again next time!